Te reo ererangi o te mānia. This episode was produced in Ōtautahi by Plains Media, with support from New Zealand On Air.
I'm so excited today to have a good friend of mine, long-term colleague and all-round super dude, Aaron Hāpuku, with me today. He works at the University of Canterbury as a lecturer in
Hauora Māori.
Hauora Māori. And we're going to talk all things Te Tiriti or Waitangi, Treaty of Waitangi, and get our heads around this and better understand how we can bring this into our everyday life for us and our tamariki. Thanks for joining us for Being Real Parents with me, Anna, and my colleague and buddy,
Kate. We work in the parenting space.
And it's here where we'll talk about our worlds as parents, the good, the not so good, and the hilarious, and mix this with what we know about behaviour and psychology. So I send you some questions in advance because I am never sure where people are in this journey of learning, and it's constant, hey? Yeah? So I think one of the first things I'd love you to do is introduce yourself rather than me just popping in hauora there, because I know there's much more. Yeah, cool.
O tēnā koe ana. Ko Aaron Hāpuku tōku ingoa, e uri ahau o Ngāti Kahungunu, ki here taunga Ngāti Pāhau wera Ngāti Rongomai wahine. Uri anō tēnei o tainui waka Ngāti Mahuta, Ngāti Tahinga. I'm Aaron. We've known each other for a long time. Beautiful to be here with you. And lovely to have this conversation leading into Waitangi Day.
Yeah, and it feels really important. It's always been important, but it's feeling more important, I think, for me, Pākehā. So, I came to learning about Te Tiriti o Waitangi quite late. It wasn't inside of my school education because I didn't choose history as a topic in secondary school. And I'm guessing that will be similar to many people, who are similar to me. So I guess one of the big questions is, what is it that we all need to understand as New Zealanders, do you think, about Te Tiriti o Waitangi Treaty?
Yeah. For me, one of my big take-home kōrero from today would be that Te Tiriti o Waitangi is a relationship document. It's not just a part of history, and I think that's sometimes how we see it, as a part of New Zealand's history instead of New Zealand's everyday life, and what an ongoing relationship looks like between Māori and non-Māori. That's bigger than just Māori and Pākehā. It's about how we live as a multicultural society without moving beyond our bicultural roots as a nation. So I think that's the main thing, that it's not a historical document that belongs in 1840. It's a relationship document, and like any good relationship, we keep talking to each other. Things change over the years. We change as people, we change as a society. But that open dialogue in any good relationship for us is really important. Yeah.
It's somehow been confused, hasn't it? I'm coming to this carefully and sensitively as Pākehā, not wanting, of course, to offend Māori, but knowing too that, and so I can take responsibility for not knowing, the history of the place I'm from, am. And, so I just wanted to kind of tease out maybe that the confusion and why there is, why am I coming to this carefully? I just wonder about that.
Look, I think you're in the same boat as a number of New Zealanders, but you're also in the same boat as a number of Māori. Including myself, who grew up without being exposed to Te Tiriti o Waitangi within education. So a lot of us are in this boat together. I think it's really important for us to be able to discuss Te Tiriti o Waitangi openly, sometimes carefully, but it's okay to discuss it passionately as well, because we're all on a learning journey together. and there's things that we're missing from all of our upbringing around the importance of Te Tiriti and the importance of this relationship and our ongoing relationship together. One thing that I would like to mention, particularly in an election year, is to encourage us to be able to be curious and to be able to ask questions.
Yes.
To be able to block out some of the political rhetoric and some of the political posturing at this time as well. It can be very hard to know where to position ourselves. And sometimes I think we get drawn into feeling like we have to position ourselves as Māori or non-Māori and to take a stance on it. Where possible, I think it's good for us to be able to sit back. We'll always take our whakapapa with us wherever we go. But being able to sit back and look at it in an interested way, almost in a very mindful way, where we try not to allow our emotions to get drawn into it.
Yeah.
It's often not useful to us to feel guilt or anger or shame. It can be very hard for New Zealanders to look into Te Tiriti or Waitangi without feeling a sense of guilt or responsibility. I'd like to go back to the idea that in 1840, none of us alive today were there at the time. None of us are responsible for the situation that we've inherited. But through educating ourselves and through shared conversation, we can hopefully honour Te Tiriti or Waitangi by looking at its intent, looking at how we treat each other, and realising that while we weren't responsible as individuals, we've inherited something that we can either be frightened of or we can be excited about. Because we have all of these beautiful tamariki coming through our kura, through our kōhanga reo. For instance, those people that are our next generation, who shouldn't have to inherit this because we're not brave enough to have the conversation now. Because if we don't deal with these things now, then we just leave them for our tamariki and our mokopuna to then have to debate. So I think we can be excited about the discussion that we can have now. And interested, excited, and sometimes non-emotive way to try to build a bridge forward together.
Do you know what? I'm sitting here feeling just feeling really, just really honoured to be able to know you and to be able to talk to you, and I think the thing is that the reason I started this podcast is because I have all these people in my world who know a lot of things, and I'm really lucky in that way. And I wanted everybody to have access to the same people. I work with professionals. You're a researcher, and I think that was all that I wanted to do, was just have everybody to have the same access to these incredible people and this incredible knowledge that I am lucky to have available to me. And you saying that, completely supports me being able to be really vulnerable in this space, as well as you, and be okay and unafraid to learn, I think. Yeah. Because one of the things that comes up, and you talked about the political climate, is that kōrero around Te Tiriti or Waitangi often has, I think, Pākehā feel somehow challenged in their own culture or right to be here or something. And that's so unwholly true about Te Tiriti, in my understanding. And actually it really allows me to be here, and be part of New Zealand culture. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Another thing that I think is important is that Pākehā have nothing to fear.
Yeah.
Around Māori, around Te Tiriti, or what we're trying to achieve by having this conversation.
Yeah.
Nobody stands to lose anything. It's not about having to give a whole lot of stuff back necessarily. It's about having a conversation, realising where we've come from, and how we can move forward.
Yeah.
Quite often people will say, well, that's in the past, why can't we leave it in the past?
Yeah.
And it's really because things from the past that are left unresolved don't get resolved.
Yeah.
And they do have impacts on our present and on our future, where those things haven't been talked about, where there haven't been some moves to either fix some things or put some things in place that make it better, not necessarily for us, but all of those people that come after us.
Yeah.
They deserve to have brave parents and grandparents, right, who can have these conversations together. And I think you touched on something really important around identity. Quite often we get drawn into this idea around sitting on two sides of the fence and having to understand the other. Yeah. You know, having to try to understand Māori, for instance. That thing around Pākehā identity is not that far removed from Māori identity either, because a lot of us have had to go back and learn about who we are. So I encourage New Zealanders from all backgrounds to actually to research your own whakapapa.
That's that, know who you are.
If your tipuna came from England or from Scotland or from Ireland, what do we know about why our own ancestors moved from the places they were to the places they're at now? And that can be challenging when we see our lives as only existing right now in the present, almost as people who don't have a past. We all have a past, we all have whakapapa. So one of the things I like to do with students at the University of Canterbury is a little bit of a pepeha exercise that is more than kind of the Mick pepeha, right? We've all been in that situation. You go to a hui, you're given a piece of paper and there's something on it that says ko space waka. You know, ko space te awa.
I've been responsible for writing those alongside you, by the way.
you fill them in, you freak out, you go to your hui, you bumble through it the best that you can, and then afterwards you say, good Lord, thank you, that's over. You screw up your little piece of paper and you biff it, because those things are really challenging. Actually, I really encourage people to look into, you know, what are our own whakapapa links? Who were our people that came here? What were their dreams and aspirations?
Yeah, and that's the beauty of the kihapiha, isn't it? Because it does actually support that, you know.
Absolutely.
Even though it's you know, it's going to make you sweat when you have to say it inside of a hui. Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't mean that if you're Pākehā you have to become Māori or try to be the best Māori that you can be. It's about us all understanding ourselves. It's very hard for us, I think, to understand our positionality with any real depth if we're still struggling to figure out who we are. And if we don't know who we are, it's really almost impossible to look across the table and understand who someone else is, because we're never quite secure in what our position is. Yeah. So like any good relationship, any healthy relationship, right, we know what we're bringing to the table in that relationship and how we interact. So I think it's as much about understanding ourselves as New Zealanders as it is about trying to understand the whānau down the road or the marae at the end of the street. It starts with us having a conversation with ourselves about who we are, so that we can genuinely see the person opposite us or even alongside us.
Yeah, we come from a different place when we know who we are, hey, you know.
Totally.
Yeah. And interestingly, in my continual journey, in terms of, understanding who I am, my whakapapa journey, and what I noticed about myself is that I'm much more settled being Pākehā New Zealander, because it means that when the, culture of Māori, tikanga, kaupapa Māori, only enhances who I am and what I know. It's not a threat.
Absolutely. And look, I think we get drawn into discussions around treaty articles and treaty principles. Yeah. And the differences in the translation from Te Reo Māori into English. And we get very deep into that. But as our starting point, actually, who are we? Where do we come from? Who do we belong to? I think sometimes we need to not leave those important discussions to the side, but bring it back to a starting point of actually understanding ourselves, who we are, and how we got here as a starting point. Because at the end of the day, Te Tiriti o Waitangi is a relationship document, and everyone involved in those relationships, knowing who they are, is a pathway to getting to know each other, I think is a really important starting point.
It's a great outcome, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
I mean, even if anyone hears this and goes, oh, do you know what, as a part of that, I'm going to research my whakapapa and know more about, who I am.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you've, even just by saying the word Pākehā, there's been a lot of political back and forth around the whakapapa of the word Pākehā. But what we know certainly is that while there are misunderstandings in any situation where two cultures meet, generally in that period between 1769 with the arrival of Cook, leading up to the period of Te Tiriti o Waitangi, yes, there were difficulties. But for the most part, relationships between Māori and Pākehā were generally good. So there was no reason really for Pākehā to have ever been a derogatory term. It was simply differentiating between the people who migrated earlier from Eastern Central Polynesia and the people that had later migrated from predominantly Britain. The word Pākehā was coined around the same time as the word Māori. Māori was never used as a word to describe us as a people, pan-tribally. It's something that just means usual or normal or plain. The usual people that were here, and then the newcomers who arrived.
Yeah.
So actually, the term Pākehā situates you as a part of that relationship here in Aotearoa and Te Waipounamu and nowhere else. So we can say we're European, but in a way, yes, our whakapapa might be European, but you actually lose a really important part of that relationship by letting that term Pākehā go. It's actually not a bad word at all.
I love that word.
In fact, it's quite a beautiful word.
It places me here. It means I'm European Pākehā.
And nowhere else.
Yeah, that's
right. It doesn't takahi on the mana of being European or being English or Scottish by whakapapa. I think it enhances that relationship that we have with each other. So it's a shame, I think, when people want to say, don't call me Pākehā. Because we've been drawn into that political discourse that is very modern and not based at all in the history really of our country or our relationships here.
So if we're working with children, like I feel like as adults, it's, one thing we can do in here is understand our whakapapa, in terms of being treaty partners and just New Zealanders actually. But in terms of, if we're parents, if we're kaiako teachers, what could we be saying and doing to support this partnership and our responsibilities here?
I think a big part of it is just approaching the conversation with positivity. I know that a lot of our kaiako in schools, they're wonderful. They do a fabulous job of promoting that relationship with Te Tiriti o Waitangi.
Agreed.
It's a part of the wider conversation, I think, around social inclusion, around people belonging, but also equity. I think that's a big part of it, that we get drawn into this conversation around equality and everyone being equal, but equal to who?
Yes.
And who sets the bar?
Yes.
Or who gets to define what being the same is, as if being the same should be a goal necessarily. Living equitably, I think, and many of us in health and health promotion and public health have always thought that way around equity, that it's actually okay to be different. There is nothing deviant or wrong about being different to the person next to you. We all have taonga that we bring. We all contribute something positive to New Zealand society. Māori make a huge contribution to our society, also alongside Pākehā, alongside all of the other cultures that call New Zealand home and that call themselves Kiwis. So I think that's where we start, is around that idea of accepting things that are the same about us and accepting those things that are equitable, those things that are different but still valuable.
Yes.
For instance, the beauty of Te Reo Māori alongside Te Reo Pākehā in English, the beauty of our Samoan and Tongan and Cook Island communities who all contribute to what this society looks like. And so I think we need to, sometimes in a real subtle way, challenge this idea of equality, where people have to come and fit into a particular box of being the same. I don't think that should be the goal. It's not socially divisive in any way, I don't think.
Yeah, that's nice. And I mean, even the way that you describe that is equitable. And you are what you say, aren't you?
I think we all try to be, don't we?
You're like, every time I work with you, it's like working with a poet. Like, I need to capture that somehow, or just lost in the what you've said. So,
I think some things that are important. I mean, we get so much of our information these days from social media, and there are good sources and bad sources. I know some people can be very suspicious of government websites, for instance. There are some good ones. There's great information on the Te Tiriti website. The He Tohu website that was part of the exhibition. I think the He Tohu website is really beautiful.
Oh, cool.
There are some lovely graphics that show the travels of Te Tiriti around the country, the different areas where Te Tiriti o Waitangi was signed and by who. And some of the different reasons why different iwi signed Te Tiriti in the first place. It's interesting when we get into discussions around the two versions of the treaty that it's a much broader discussion than that. There were 500 rangatira who signed Te Tiriti o Waitangi only in Te Reo Māori. There were only around 39 to 40 that even saw an English translation that they signed. And there were, post 6th of February, actually 9 copies of Te Tiriti that travelled around Aotearoa and Te Waipounamu. And only one of those was in English. So most of our rangatira who signed on behalf of Hapu and iwi only ever saw the Te Reo Māori version. That was all they debated and signed. Yeah,
and that matters. That really matters.
It does really matter. It's a big part of the discussion around how an English translation that 500 chiefs never even saw has been given so much weight. When actually we know through international law, contra proferentum and so on, that where there are discrepancies in translation and language, that would go against the drafting party, and that the language of the people and what they understood would be given preference. So what people read, what people signed, and what they believed that they were actually signing up to. So we are looking at those differences. I mean, one of the big differences, of course, is around terms such as kāwanatanga, the establishment of a government, mostly for the British to be able to look after some of their own unruly subjects, who were wreaking a bit of havoc around the country at the time, and the agreement from rangatira on behalf of Hapu that a government could be set up. That's very different to the English translation that came afterwards that talked about Māori ceding sovereignty, which wasn't something that they'd signed.
I also would really recommend that if you are anywhere near Pōneke, Wellington, go and see Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Like, it's a beautiful document in terms of the signatures, the koru, I'm guessing taumoko of how people penned their name, their iwi, and such an incredible piece. Yeah.
I do understand, however, how people can be fearful of that or apprehensive.
Yeah.
because it can be very challenging. It gets very complicated. It becomes very heavy trying to engage in those discussions. And again, it comes down to how we feel we're positioned and how we might choose to position ourselves.
Yeah.
And while I think those things are interesting and useful, and at some point we will come to talking about those things and grappling with those things, differences in translations, differences between words like kāwanatanga, which were transliterations from England around government and governance or governors, and terms that Māori were familiar with, such as mana and rangatiratanga. Those are different things. I think it's useful sometimes to come back to ourselves, our own families and communities, because as an individual or as a family, it can feel like these things are so big. They're so enormous. How can we contribute to anything? How can we fix it? So, let's all just have a day off work and not worry about it, right? But yeah, I'd encourage us to be brave and to walk into the conversation with an open heart.
Yeah, nice. Hey, special ngāmihi always, and thank you so much for being with me, being part of this, allowing me to ask the questions and always having such incredible answers. Thank you.
No worries. I would just encourage everyone for Waitangi Day, if there's something small that you can do. Kia ora is a beautiful way to greet people. That may be the simplest and smallest place where we might want to start.
Yeah.
In terms of shifting Te Tiriti or Waitangi from being a history document to something that we can enact every day.
Yeah.
Embrace those little bits of te reo Māori that we know. Think about what our relationships look like, not just with Māori, but with everyone in our society, and how we approach things in an equitable way. We want the best for each other.
And kia ora can often be the start of a relationship, hey?
Tika. Kia ora e hoa.
Awesome. Thanks for being with us today.
We hope you've learned that while parenting is challenging sometimes, that's totally normal. It's been fun having you with us. Keep being amazing.